So I might have made a bit of a mistake, but hear me out. Wow, this lighting got real dramatic all of a sudden with those light rays coming in. So let's move this around. So the reason I might have made a mistake is I bought a camera and it was so cheap. It might be worth the money, but it also might be the worst camera that I've ever put my hands on. I don't actually know yet because I haven't actually gotten it, but let's talk about this camera real quick. So for a little while now, I've been considering getting like a used older like Fujifilm camera, like an X-T1 or an X-T2, something that's just like small and compact that I can use like little short pancake lenses with that I could just kind of keep around with me at all times. But the issue that I tend to run into while the lens is getting these incredible lens flares from the light coming through my blinds is that I don't really want to spend like $300, $400, $500 on a camera that it kind of does what my phone does, right? I don't really know if that makes a ton of sense. So the other day I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw one of those videos that people made where, you know, they're kind of like trying to play it off like they just got this new cool thing and they're showing it off, but it's actually just a way to try to sell something off of TikTok Shop. And I'm embarrassed to say it caught my eye pretty quickly. And for really one reason. This random little camera that they were showing off looked pretty close to like an older Fujifilm. So the specific camera that I got, and I'm just gonna read it off the phone because it doesn't actually have a name. It just has a listing, and the listing is called 4K digital camera, 48 megapixel vlogging digital camera, one-piece support, 16x digital zoom, so on and so forth. And it just lists off a bunch of random specs. Like there's no like brand name, there's nothing on there. And it looks, from the images, like a toy. But the reason that I decided to take a chance on this camera is because the listing price is only $49.19. And by the time I actually bought the thing, with all of the random discounts and first-timer discounts that TikTok was providing for their TikTok shop, it was only $37.48. So when I saw that price, I was kind of like, you know what? I could spend a few $100s on a camera I know I'm probably gonna enjoy, that's gonna work for me, that it will be, you know, a good camera with good quality photos. But I could spend $37, the price of a decent meal at a mid-range restaurant nowadays, and get a camera out of it that might have 48 megapixels, that might be 4K, might not be. We'll see about that. So I ordered this camera on February 18th, and it is March 1st, and I just received it today. So without further ado, let's go grab it and unbox the thing. So here it is, the VJanger 4K 48 megapixel vlogging camera. First thing I noticed is how small this thing is. I mean, it is, as far as thickness goes, without the add-on lens that they included with the kit, it is maybe the thickness of like 2 or 3 iPhones. It's also actually smaller than my iPhone 13 Pro, right? Like as far as height and width, it's actually smaller than that. So I could comfortably fit this into my pocket and I can walk around all day with it and not feel weighed down by this big old camera kit. So at least in that category, this is currently hitting all of my marks. The other cool thing is it does have a flip out LCD. It's not articulating, it does not rotate or spin or anything like that. It just goes out like this and it folds back in. If you want to use this as a vlogging camera, which I almost dropped it because it's so light, it does actually work quite well. Now, I do have to call something out. When I just flipped out that screen, the reason why I almost dropped the camera is because the screen, I'm pretty sure, weighs more than the actual rest of the body. Like when I flip out the LCD screen and I'd hold it like this, I can feel a significantly more weight on the side of the screen than I can on the actual camera. Now, another kind of cool thing is that this camera does include some input and output ports, such as a mic jack, if you want to hook up a microphone to it for all of your vlogging needs. It does actually have USB-C. And finally, they also have a mini HDMI port. I'm assuming if you want to display the pictures from this camera on a screen or something like that. Now, in the kit itself, we do have this little pretty generic, pretty cheap lens cover, but honestly, my Sony lens covers feel pretty much exactly the same, so no knock against it here. In addition to that, it also came with this lens, which appears to be an ultra wide angle lens. Let me see if I can put this in front of my Sony here, and you can see kind of how much wider that makes it. It almost makes me feel like I'm in some kind of like early 2000s skate video with a fisheye lens. But it does say that this is a digital high definition 0.45x super wide angle lens with macro Japan optics. So it seems like you've got one little macro attachment, one wide angle attachment. Together they make an ultra wide angle or super wide angle lens with macro Japan optics. And with that, you actually, honestly, you got a pretty stylish little like walking around camera, man. It's got that like super stylish, like small form factor viewfinder kind of vibe to it, you know, when you have this extra lens on there. So if that's what you're looking for, I mean, this will get you there for sure. Now, speaking of the viewfinder, it doesn't really have one. I would call this more of a window than anything else. I'm gonna see if I can show you guys through there. It is essentially just a tunnel of glass or plastic through the very top of this camera. Now, of course, in addition to the lens, the camera itself, it did also come with 2 batteries and a charger for both of the batteries, which is super nice. It does have a USB-C cable, which I'm honestly pretty excited about because ever since things went to USB-C more often, I'm finding myself constantly needing USB-C cables everywhere. So if all I get out of this is a decent USB-C charging cable, I'm honestly gonna be kind of okay with that. And then of course, we've got a couple of lens caps for that add-on lens element. So now you might be thinking, the only thing we've got left to do is to test the video and photo performance of this camera. And you would be wrong, because not many people know this, but the way that a camera sounds is actually just as important, if not more important, than how it performs with photos and videos. So without further ado, let's start the ASMR montage. actually how this thing sounds. So I'm not gonna lie, just looking at the camera on the LCD screen that's built in, the image quality honestly is not bad. Obviously on this tiny little like 3-inch, not touch screen, just basic monitor, I can see this being 4K.
It's not 4K.
It kind of reminds me of like an early, maybe like mid 2000s, you know, like point and shoot. Like it kind of gives me the vibe of, you know, the like the early vlogging days, you know what I mean? It's on auto exposure right now, dynamic range, not bad. Kind of blown out in the sky back there, but you know, not too bad. I have no idea what the audio sounds like, so.
It also does not sound good.
Those of you that are watching the video right now, you have a better idea than I do at this moment. All right, well, how do I sound now? So I've got my little DJI mic hooked up to the camera now because, like I mentioned at the beginning, this thing does have a audio input. So I'm actually really interested to see how this thing works as a vlogging camera when you have like some kind of other audio device, if that makes the video kind of usable. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to shoot on this camera, at least for the rest of this segment, and I'm going to use my little DJI mic. So while I head back home from this fun little excursion up some windy mountain roads in Boulder, here are my first impressions of the camera. So I kind of already talked about it. It's surprisingly good. So I'm not going to lie, when I bought this camera and I saw that it was only like 37 bucks, I saw it was boasting these crazy, like awesome looking stats, I did not believe for a second that it was 4K.
Well, it's not.
That the photos were going to be good, that it was going to be even worth the $37. But to summarize, my experience with this camera has been surprisingly good and kind of fun in like a weird, unexpected way. The use experience, you're going to not have a great usage experience, right? Like, let's make that very clear. It's not going to be the same as like a proper mirrorless or a proper DSLR camera. But if you don't care about any of those things, I think for 35 bucks, this thing would actually be kind of fun. So then that kind of leaves the big question of the video. Am I going to recommend that you go out and buy this camera? I'm not going to recommend against it, which is actually a really surprising conclusion, in my opinion. Now, I haven't seen the actual pictures of the video quality or anything like that. So I'm speaking not having seen the full experience, but just getting to use the camera and getting to play around with it. I think it's actually worth this 35 bucks or the 37 bucks.
Well, obviously I was super excited in the car for the quality of this camera, but looking at the footage now, it is about what I expected when I paid $37 for a 4K camera. First of all, it's obviously not true 4K. It is absolutely upsampled from like, I don't know, 720 or something that is way lower than 4K. When you load it into like Premiere or load it into a program, it'll tell you that it's 3840 by 2160, but one look at it, you know it is not anywhere close to true 4K. And honestly, that's probably okay. That's kind of what I expected from this camera. Now, I was super hopeful about the audio quality. Obviously not directly from the camera. I was expecting it to sound about as bad straight from that camera as it did. But with the mic plugged in, I was actually really hopeful that the audio quality would sound good. And it is an improvement, but every single clip is entirely peaked. This mic is the same one that I was using on the camera when I was in the car, and it's at the same exact level, same exact gain, everything. And obviously something in that camera is just like cranking the audio sensitivity up to 10, because I can guarantee you the audio from this camera, my Sony, is not going to sound nearly as bad as that one. With the mic plugged in, it's somewhat usable. So there is that. Now, as far as quality and everything goes, obviously you're kind of getting what you're paying for. And to be honest, like for the price, it's still not awful. As far as just having fun with a camera, for 35 bucks, 37 bucks, it's not the worst decision I've ever made. And just because the quality isn't exactly what it's boasting does not mean you can't be creative with it. Like I could see someone using this to create like a retro future cyberpunk type of thing, you know, out of it, or try to make it look like an old VHS tape or something along those lines. I could totally see that. So the real conclusion, you're getting what you pay for. You're getting the quality that you pay for with a few surprises here and there. It is a fun little camera, and I think it's maybe, you know, fun toy or like a gift for a child or something if they're interested in photography, or if you just want to get that kind of like retro old VHS converted to digital type of vibe. This camera will probably do a good job of that. Ultimately, it's just for fun. All right, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. Honestly, I was pleasantly surprised with how fun this video was to shoot and how fun it was to kind of just mess around with this super cheap little camera. So let me know what you guys think. If you think this camera would be worth the money, or if you're wanting to try it, if you've already bought something like this off the TikTok shop or anywhere else, Temu or wherever else, let me know in the comments down below what your experiences have been. Also, if you have recommendations for any photo or video accessories that are just kind of like super cheap, have like crazy looking spec sheets, let me know down below. I would love to try out a couple of more little gadgets like this and see if I can be pleasantly surprised for just a few bucks. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more photography related content like this, please hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications on so you know when the next one comes out. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.